What is going on, everyone? This is Miles Dompier, and welcome to the 90th episode of Xbox Chaturdays and this year's Xbox Chaturdays Holiday Special. Today, I'm stoked to be joined by you. That's right, you heard me right. You are my special guest on this episode. Community has always been a huge part of this show, so I was trying to think of ways we could do something fun to kind of celebrate the end of 2022, going into the new year. So we're going to be doing some fun community-centric stuff with the people watching live on youtube.com/MilesDompier. We're going to be diving into the latest developments regarding the FTC's stance on the Activision Blizzard King acquisition. We're going to be talking about Kojima's mad new Xbox exclusive. And then we're going to be discussing the best and worst video games of the year 2022. So some quick housekeeping for those tuning in. How this is all going to go down. And if you haven't seen, Xbox Chaturdays now has a shiny new Discord. So, again, late to the game here, but Xbox Chaturdays now has a Discord. If you are interested in joining that Discord, there is a link in the description of this video that'll get you in there. There is a community Q&A live event being hosted in that channel right now. So after we cover the big news of the week, we're going to be turning to 10 distinct categories for the best and worst video games of the year. I'm going to share my picks, and then I'm going to turn to you, the community, to share your picks for each of these categories. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You're actually going to have your voice literally heard live. It's not going to be me reading the answers. You are going to jump on this show with me, and your voice is going to be live. So we'll see how that goes. It's going to be a fun experiment. It's going to be wild. Couple of rules if you are joining live. Keep it fun. Keep it light. Don't swear too much. And that's about it. We're gonna have a lot of fun today. Appreciate all of you tuning in. So as I said, community is a big part of the show. Super chats, they're not something that are active. If you've been watching the last several episodes, we have an alternative in the interim. If you have a burning question or comment you want everyone to see or have read, you can use the link streamlabs.com/MilesDompier/tip. I will drop that in the chat right now. So as we go into this episode, and as we wrap up the year here, I guess I'm going to take a little moment to be cheesy and be a little sappy, because it's been a really interesting year. It's been a pretty wild year. It's been a roller coaster in a lot of ways. There's been a lot of really extreme highs, and then there's been some disappointing developments in the last several months surrounding the whole games industry as a whole. So going into next year, I will not be doing any video work for Windows Central. There's been some budget changes. There's been a lot of, disruption behind the scenes, and I'm just not going to be doing any video content and a lot less content in general for Windows Central. If you've been following me, if you're familiar with my work over on Windows Central, I was brought on to build up the Windows Central Gaming YouTube channel, and that was kind of my primary function for the last several years, was investing in that and building that up. And in a relatively short period of time, I felt like we had some really great success. And so obviously it's a bit of a bummer to know that that momentum and that energy is, at least for the interim, put on pause. And it's hard to get that momentum back realistically, as we know. So yeah, moving into next year, I'm not going to be doing any video work for Windows Central. So just want to let everyone know kind of where I stand there. Still technically will be working there, but you'll start seeing my stuff pop up on some other outlets as well. So just want to take a minute to thank everyone who supported that channel so much. That was so much fun. That was such a great experience. I met so many great, amazing people through that. And I just want to and I really want to give a huge shout out to everyone who's supported this channel, supported my new endeavor here. And it's, in hindsight, yeah, probably should have started it sooner. It is what it is. There's only so much you can do, but I've been so excited to see so many people excited about what I'm doing on this channel, and to see the support and to see people tune in and show up and get excited about what I'm doing. It really means a lot. So to everyone who's kind of followed me over here on youtube.com/MilesDompier, thank you. I mean, it just really means a lot, as there's been a lot of weird disruption and uncertainty for me over the last couple months, because it's been, every single week a new development, and I've just haven't really known what exactly the future holds. So yeah, just wanted to talk about that, address that publicly here. And I just want to thank everyone who's tuning in live, who's listening after the fact, who's watching after the fact, because your encouragement, your kind words, all of that really goes so far and does so much to keep me excited and motivated about what I'm doing over here. So thank you. Thank you all so much for what you do. All right. So let's talk about the first big topic this week. I'm going to transition here. Boom! What's up? Yeah, rolling the show live, hosting, doing it all, baby. Let's rock and roll. So the first thing I want to talk about this week is Kojima's, quote, mad Xbox exclusive. So it was long rumored that Kojima was collaborating with Microsoft on an Xbox exclusive. And there were some people who said, Kojima wouldn't do that. He's loyal to PlayStation. And there's been a lot of, discourse surrounding Kojima and Xbox over the course of the last, I would say, year and a half. And then earlier this year at the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase, Microsoft came out on stage and they confirmed the long-rumored project between Hideo Kojima and Xbox. There's been a lot of rumors and speculation about what this is. This project, was rumored to incorporate cloud features. It's rumored to be really innovative and out there. And on the official front, we haven't got confirmation of what this game is. Because if you watch the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase, Kojima came out on stage and he said, yeah, I'm working with Xbox, and they're letting me do something I've always wanted to do. And that was it. So not a lot of information officially on this project. So in an interview with IGN this week, Kojima sat down and discussed the future of Kojima Productions, and we got some more insights into this project and this collaboration between Xbox and Hideo Kojima. So here's what he had to say when he was asked about working with Xbox on his new game. Quote, "The project we're working on with Microsoft is one I have been thinking about for 5 or 6 years already. The project required infrastructure that was never needed before, so I discussed it with lots of different big companies and gave presentations, but they really seemed to think that I was mad. It was ultimately Microsoft who showed that they understood, and now we're working together on the project, including the technology front." What I love about this is that, Kojima is a figure known for weird. He's had a track record and he's had a history of weird games, weird gameplay mechanics, and weird ideas. So it's just funny to me imagining Kojima going to all these teams and just getting, rejected. This legendary figure is just getting rejected, and Microsoft says, all right, let's go. You got a weird idea. We have the cloud infrastructure. Let's give it a try here. So love that. I'm really excited to see what this project holds. And, given some of the weirdness that Kojima has leaned into in the past, I'm hoping this gets really weird. I've been blanking on the name. He put out a DS game where the cartridge had like a solar panel in it, and it was this vampire-themed game, and it played with light and dark. So he took the time to put a solar panel on this cartridge as part of the gameplay mechanics. So those are the kind of weird ideas I love to see flourish and thrive. So if people want to give Kojima piles of money to be weird, let's go. And Microsoft, as we know, they're looking to invest heavily. They're looking to take some risks. They're looking to shake things up. So it sounds like this is a good partner for Kojima's unique brand of weirdness. So it sounds like, as we get more info from this interview, that the cloud is what really solidified this deal for Kojima. And here's what he had to say about that. With Microsoft's cutting-edge cloud technology and the change in the industry's trend, it has now become possible to challenge myself to make this never-before-seen concept. It may take some time, but I'm looking forward to teaming up with Xbox Game Studios and hope to bring you some exciting news in the future. So there's been a lot of speculation about, when we might see this, because the timing was interesting ahead of the last Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase, because there were some leaks surrounding a Kojima Productions project. The working name, or the name that was leaked, was Overdose. And apparently there was a trailer or some gameplay floating around that some people posted, and Kojima Productions team reached out to them to ask them to take it down. So there's been a lot of, speculation that this project could be this Overdose title, which looks to be a horror game. So there is a potential possibility where Kojima's cloud-based project is the long-fabled, the long-wanted Kojima foray into the horror space. And as a huge horror fan, let's go, baby. Let's go. I'm all about that idea. Really excited to see what comes from this collaboration. And I'm wondering if we'll get some sort of information, whether it be like a teaser trailer of some kind or more details later on this year. Because, like I said, the timing with the whole Overdose leak and then Microsoft coming out on stage and having Kojima just talk about the project, we don't have a name. We don't have a code name. We have no information officially, really, outside of the fact that it's leveraging the cloud. So I'm hoping that as we move into 2023, we'll get some more details on what this project is. A couple of super chats here from the amazing people joining us. We got Jacob Novik, he said, "Hi, Merry Christmas. A question. Can we see Xbox, which have sold 20 million according to VG charts, outsell PS5 in total sales? 28 million according to VG charts. If 2023 they deliver every game they promised." Wow, Jacob Novik coming in with a big question, a hot question that says, basically, is there a world where Microsoft can outsell the PS5 this generation if they start to deliver? We've seen a lot of momentum. We've seen a lot of growth from Xbox sales, from Xbox Game Pass, and the kind of stark and harsh reality is they haven't really delivered a lot in the way of must-play exclusives. We've had Halo Infinite, we've had Forza Horizon 5, and then 2023, or 2021 in particular, had some noteworthy standouts. 2022 was pretty light. We had Pentiment, we had Grounded, which are amazing games. Obsidian, shout out to them for continuing to absolutely kill it. But 2022 was light. 2022 was a light year for exclusives on the Xbox front. 2023 is poised to be a lot bigger, and it's poised to have games like Starfield, which when you go online, when you look at community interest, when you look at the search metrics and algorithms, Starfield is shaping up to be a big old game, a massive game, and coming off the back of, Skyrim, Fallout 76 had a rough launch, but it's kind of turned around a little bit. It's got good community reception. It's got a passionate, basically cult following at this point. So that game is still doing well. But Bethesda Softworks has this reputation for creating big, immersive worlds that people can get sucked into. And people are really excited about Starfield. So, yeah, if they come out and Starfield hits and is that must play, like Elden Ring or Skyrim when that came out. If you were, around when Skyrim dropped, that was a moment. Every single person you knew that played video games, even casually, was talking about Skyrim or was playing Skyrim. And I think that's going to be Starfield, but on a bigger scale, because at this point, people are so hungry for the next Bethesda project that's going to feed into that. So it's definitely going to take some time. I don't think it's going to be an instantaneous switch. Boom! Starfield drops and Xbox sells 20 million consoles in the span of a couple months. But that could be a big turning point. 2023 in particular could be a big turning point for what's next for Microsoft and how they can start to close that gap. We've seen them close it. They are performing much better than the Xbox One generation, but PS5 has had a lot of compelling must-play titles, and PlayStation's been aggressive when it comes to locking down exclusives on the third-party front. So PlayStation is doing a lot, basically everything in their power to ensure that Microsoft doesn't have the opportunities to close that gap, at least very quickly. But that being said, there's a chance that we get much closer towards the end of 2023, especially if 2023 for PlayStation is light, which right now it's shaping up to be somewhat light. We know Spider-Man 2 is coming. We know they've locked down some exclusives like Final Fantasy 16, Forspoken in particular. But outside of that, we don't really know what that slate looks like. So it's going to be interesting to see what 2023 looks like. We got a couple more super chats here from, all right, Nick W., who says, "Merry Christmas, Miles." Thank you. Merry Christmas to all those who celebrate. If you were watching live, it is Christmas Eve, so appreciate you hanging out, tuning in. If you missed my intro spiel here, we're going to be talking about the best and worst games of 2022. We're going to be taking calls from the community in this regard, so if you haven't and you want to join the Xbox Chaturdays Discord, there's a link in the description below. You can join the community Q&A channel. And as we get to that section of the show, I will be calling on you to talk live, putting you in the hot seat to make your case for these 10 different categories. One more super chat, and we'll move on to the next topic. Jacob Novik, again, appreciate it. It says, dumb that Phil Harrison rejected his game when he saw the concept after 1 year after Phil approved his game because it was single player, and according to Phil, single players don't sell. Yeah, that there's been this roller coaster when it comes to the single player narrative. You know, single player games don't sell. Multiplayer games sell better. Everything needs to be a games as a service, ongoing game. And in some ways, if you can have a successful multiplayer ongoing game, that's kind of the case. Because you have recurring revenue, you have investments, you have word of mouth. So you can say, hey, dude, I'm playing this. Hey, John, my good buddy, I'm playing this. You need to be playing this. Whereas a single player game, you do have that to some degree, but chances are once you've played it, you're not actively playing it. So there's this shorter shelf life for what that could be in some cases. Obviously, there are single player games that just explode and become this phenomenon. But that being said, there's just, generally speaking, more money to be made in multiplayer. And when these companies make statements like that, when these figures make statements like that, it's not about they can't make any money. It's about, okay, well, this is going to make more money. And that's really what it's all about for a lot of these people. We got a generous super chat from Hargi Chani, who has tipped $100. That is outrageous. Huge shout out to him. I want to take a second shout out Hargi in general, because not only is he hanging out in streams, not only is he hanging out in Discords, this dude is constantly giving away games in chats. If you've hung out in streams, you'll see him dropping game codes. So be sure to support this dude. Be sure to give this dude a round of applause. And thank you so much for everything you do for the community as a whole. You are such a cool figure and such a generous figure in the community, and I greatly appreciate you. All right. It's that time of the show where we gotta talk about the acquisition, Blizzard King acquisition, and the latest updates. You know, I've been joking the last several weeks that, you know, we're getting close to the holidays. There can't be a lot of news on this front. You know, a lot of people have got to be winding down for the year, getting ready to, you know, celebrate the holidays with their friends and family and all of that good stuff. So there's not going to be much. And sure enough, every single week there has been a pretty big noteworthy development here, and there's been things to talk about, and so we're going to talk about them. It's the biggest story of 2022, regardless of your preference when it comes to the video games industry. This acquisition, it's the biggest acquisition in video game history, and it's been the biggest ongoing story in gaming by a lot. So if you are unaware, Microsoft is trying to buy Activision Blizzard King for about $69 billion. Big old fat pile of money. When they announced they were trying to buy Bethesda for $7.5 billion, a lot of us were like, wow, that is a huge figure. That is so much money. I can't wrap my mind around that much money. And then shortly after, they multiply that by 10 and say, all right, well, here's what's next for us. And so because of that, figures like PlayStation have been very vocally against it. There have been concerns from regulators about what this means for the industry. And there's been this learning curve where a lot of these regulatory bodies are trying to get up to speed with what this could mean, what the implications of this deal could mean for customers and consumers and the industry as a whole. So on the day of the Game Awards, which was a big buzzkill for Xbox, the FTC announced that they were going to be filing a lawsuit essentially to stop this deal from happening. Since then, there's been a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of conversations from the community and from the industry as a whole, but Microsoft themselves haven't had too much to say in this regards. So Microsoft has announced, or basically Microsoft has officially responded to the FTC at this point. It's been roughly 2 weeks. Microsoft now has a response to the FTC's concerns regarding this deal. So part of the FTC's statement when they announced the lawsuit was that, you know, well, you said you were going to keep Bethesda games multi-platform and you didn't, which was said in error. We've seen other, like the EU, come out and say, no, they never actually said that. So that claim was made in error. So in response to that claim, this is what Xbox had to say about Bethesda titles being exclusive. Xbox anticipates that 3 future titles, redacted, all of which are designed to be played primarily alone or in small groups, will be exclusive to Xbox and PCs. So that's interesting. That's very, very interesting. So Xbox has confirmed that the 3 future Bethesda titles will be exclusive, y'all. So the big question is, what are the 3 titles and why is this section redacted? So we already know we already know Starfield is going to be exclusive. We already know Redfall is going to be exclusive. Some other question marks in terms of already announced projects. Elder Scrolls 6. That's been a big one. That's been one a lot of PlayStation fans have been asking, will this be multi-platform? Or will Elder Scrolls 6 be exclusive? And since they haven't talked about exclusivity in particular for Elder Scrolls 6, I wonder if that's the 3rd game here and the reason it's redacted. Or is it more? Is it stuff like Indiana Jones? Is it stuff like new IPs we haven't seen of or games that are completely unannounced? We know Bethesda and ZeniMax has a huge stable of teams working on a bunch of different projects. So, the 3 particular titles that they talk about, that's interesting. That's really, really interesting. But it kind of paints the picture that Microsoft, especially on the single-player side or the smaller scale co-op side, they want those exclusives. They understand that they need those exclusives. With your ongoing multiplayer big games, I'm of the camp that really those should be multi-platform. Where it makes sense and where you can do it, put them on everything. But I've talked about putting Pokemon Unite on everywhere. I don't care if it's on PlayStation. Sea of Thieves, put that on PlayStation. I don't care. Like it's obviously important to have the exclusives, but when it comes to these big multiplayer hits, these ongoing games that live and die by the community, foster that community wherever they are. But as we've seen, and as we've seen from fans who are frustrated with the current state of Xbox, they haven't had a lot of compelling exclusives. They haven't had a lot of system sellers, if you will, or platform drivers, if you will. So people want those big exclusives. And it sounds like on the Bethesda side, Microsoft, is making it clear that those games will be exclusive. So interesting to get that. Another part of this response was Microsoft, addressing its position in the market, if you will. We've seen Microsoft spend a lot of time talking about how they're the underdogs in this industry. They're the underdogs in this space, and they're in 3rd place. No matter how you want to look at it. I know Microsoft is huge. Microsoft makes a ton of money year over year over year. But that being said, Microsoft is still in 3rd place on the gaming side. That is the reality of their business. They've been working hard to correct that. They've been working hard to get momentum, but they are in 3rd place. So they are using that information to say, listen, all right, even after this deal closes, we're not going to be number 1. Like, that's not what this is about. This isn't about us being the dominant space in the industry. This is about us, putting our gloves on and scrapping a little bit, standing toe-to-toe with these juggernauts like Nintendo and PlayStation, because the reality is Nintendo and PlayStation just have a legacy over Xbox. They've been in the space longer. They're more synonymous with gaming, and they have bigger brand recognition in the gaming space, and that's the reality. So here's what Microsoft had to say about their position in the industry. Quote, a few companies, primarily located abroad, exercise outside influence in this industry. Xbox is not one of them. Xbox's console lags well behind Sony's and Nintendo's. While Xbox publishes games for consoles and PCs, it has far fewer popular exclusive games than Sony and Nintendo. And Xbox has almost no presence in mobile gaming, which is the largest and fastest growing segment of gaming. So Microsoft is saying, not only are PlayStation and Nintendo way bigger than us, they have way more exciting exclusives. And, a big part of this deal for us is, growing our position in the mobile space, which they released a pie chart. I wish I had that on the stream here, but if you haven't seen it, there's an interesting pie chart where Microsoft shows its little teeny slice of some of these segments. And the mobile segment, they have next to nothing. The mobile slice of the pie is minuscule. So I think really they can leverage that to kind of calm any concerns about this deal, or calm some of the concerns about this deal, because really, as the rumors of Microsoft building its own mobile storefront, they're trying to position themselves better. And if you can get Call of Duty Mobile, if you can get Candy Crush, if you can get a couple of high-profile mobile pops, that makes launching a storefront so much easier than launching a storefront and having Age of Empires mobile. I don't know like what they currently have in development for the mobile space. So they're trying to correct that. And so I think that's a good way to phrase this. And as we look at the comments from, PlayStation and from Xbox. Really, they're doing what's best for the business. Obviously, this deal will be huge for Microsoft's business. Call of Duty makes a lot of money. Candy Crush makes a lot of money. They'll be able to be more consistent with their game streaming service. They'll be able to put big, high-profile titles like Call of Duty in Xbox Game Pass. So this is a huge boon. Obviously, it's expensive. $69 billion is a lot of money. It's an absurd amount of money. So they want to make sure that this deal goes through for those reasons. And PlayStation on the other side, this deal's not going to benefit them. It's only going to hurt them. It's only there's no world where this deal benefits PlayStation. Nintendo, they're getting Call of Duty, it sounds like, at the end of this. So PlayStation or Nintendo hasn't been that vocal, and a lot of the other big industry publishers and figures haven't been that vocal because it's not going to directly impact them in a lot of ways. It's not going to negatively impact their business if Microsoft owns Call of Duty. And for the players, if you have Xbox Game Pass in particular, come on now. You can't tell me that paying less for Call of Duty is going to hurt customers, and having the option to subscribe to a subscription service like Xbox Game Pass is going to damage customers. So whether or not this deal goes to court, we'll have to wait and see. But the reality is Microsoft has a lot of strong counters grounded in legality and logic that say, well, this deal is going to benefit a lot of people. All right, sure, it's not going to benefit your PlayStations of the world, but it is going to have the potential to benefit players. Now, if Microsoft goes and tries to go back on some of this exclusivity or these price increases, and we see Microsoft do any sort of things that these people were concerned about post this acquisition, then the next time around they're going to have that evidence to say, well, you said this and you didn't do this. But I don't think Microsoft is just casually saying any of this. They have every intention to keep Call of Duty multi-platform because, mamma mia, that's just a lot of money that they get. And like I've said before, the main reason I don't care about whether or not Call of Duty is exclusive, sure, that would be huge. If we want to look at the old school mentality of the games industry and the old school mentality of business, bully people into submission, all right? You make Call of Duty exclusive, you say, too bad. You know what? This is the biggest first-person shooter franchise, and we have it. It's only on our platform. You want to play it, buy an Xbox. That's one way to do it. That is one way to handle your business, and that is one way the businesses have operated. I used to work in sales and marketing in the alcohol industry in Los Angeles, which is the most cutthroat, aggressive market in the world, basically. And that was the mentality for a lot of people. Another mentality, which I think a lot of companies are understanding, is if you just have a more enticing offering and you can get that organic establishment of customers and growth, that is infinitely more valuable. When you can say, yeah, you know what? You can play Call of Duty on PlayStation. Cool. Do it. Have fun. Or if you jump on Xbox, you can play Call of Duty in Game Pass. And if you do that, we're going to give you a bunch of perks. We're going to give you season passes. We're going to give you exclusive skins. We're going to make sure that when you play Call of Duty on Xbox, you are getting the most out of your dollar. And you can pull people in and get them invested in the service, get them signed up for Xbox Game Pass. And then they say, oh, you know what? Xbox Game Pass is actually pretty cool. There's a lot of titles here that I wouldn't normally play or wouldn't normally buy. And then those people who would normally just buy Call of Duty every year, they stay subscribed to Xbox Game Pass for the entirety of the year. They buy the DLC, they buy the expansions for Call of Duty, and they just are invested in your ecosystem. And as PlayStation has shown, it is hard as hell to pull someone out of that. If someone is established, they have that connection with the brand, they have that connection with the platform, they have that connection with the titles, that is next to impossible to eliminate. And that's just the reality of the situation. And so Microsoft needs to be clever. And Microsoft needs to make a worthwhile business model that isn't based on, in my opinion, spite or aggression. Because I guess aggression maybe is the wrong word. They need to be aggressive when it comes to competing, but they shouldn't be aggressive about how they message that to the customer. Because as we've seen with the Xbox One and Kinect, nobody likes to be forced to do anything. We're all human. We all have our flaws, and one of the critical flaws of being a human is sometimes you're spiteful. When somebody tells you you have to do this, no, I'm not doing it. I will not do it. And so that's the position that Microsoft could be in if they try to play that card. And, you know, some people might say, well, it's not fair. PlayStation does that. Nintendo does that, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, sure, there's definitely some credence there. But the reality is Microsoft is in third place here. And they need to work a little bit harder to steal some of that loyalty from PlayStation and Nintendo. So, interesting development here. Interesting to see Microsoft continue to comment on this. And again, as we get closer to the end of this deal, I do wonder whether or not this will go to court at all, or if Microsoft will have enough answers to satiate all of the critics of the deal. All right, a couple more super chats. Appreciate y'all killing it. Love you. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for tuning into the holiday special, the one-man show here. And again, as I touched on in the beginning of the show, wanted to do something interesting and special with the community. So I'm really excited to see how polling people live into the show works. So again, one more time, if you are not in the Xbox Chaturdays Discord, find the link in the description. Join that Discord. Join the community Q&A session, and you will have a chance to come on the show live and talk about the best games of 2022. Jacob Novik, one more tip, or one more super chat here, says, like the saying goes, if Kojima talks, you listen. Because even if you dislike his games, Kojima is a mastermind. I myself even think that you as the CEO or dev is stupid and outright dumb if you reject Kojima if he ever chooses you. Yeah, Kojima is a polarizing figure. I'll be honest. I haven't loved every single one of his games. But that being said, I greatly and tremendously appreciate any figure who is willing to try new ideas and push the medium forward. We need it. We desperately need it. There are formulas that work, and we see people milk those formulas over and over again. And then you have people saying, all right, well, what if we create a new formula? What if we completely flip a genre or flip a gameplay idea on its head and we create something entirely new? We need more figures like that. We desperately do, and Kojima is that. Whether you like all of his games or not, he is doing that, and that's why I'm excited to see what comes out of this Xbox and Kojima project. And if it is a weird-ass horror game with cloud features that immerse you in the experience in a way we haven't seen before, let's go, baby. Let's do it. All right, the next topic I want to touch on here is another ongoing one. This is another ongoing topic here. And I guess, let me just give a huge shout out to all the people tuning in live. If you were watching the show live, thank you so much. Hit that like button, share it out, and let's talk about, will Final Fantasy VII Remake ever come to Xbox? So, as we touched on, PlayStation has been very aggressive when it comes to exclusives. They have been securing a lot of big, high-profile exclusives, and a lot of those have been on the JRPG side. A lot of those have been on the old Square Enix side, if you will, and Xbox fans are mad. A lot of Xbox fans are frustrated, disappointed, and, you know, I've seen people outright say they're going to outright boycott Square Enix because of how they've, you know, handled and treated the Xbox community. And, you know, on the flip side of this, PlayStation is just leaning into Final Fantasy in particular so aggressively this generation. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy 16, baby. Forspoken, not Final Fantasy, but Final Fantasy adjacent. Those are exclusive to PlayStation. And with Final Fantasy VII Remake being out for several years, people are wondering, where is it? Will it ever come to Xbox? And thanks to a filing with the CMA from Xbox, we've gotten more insights in the fate of these titles for Xbox. So here's what Xbox had to say about PlayStation's, you know, aggressive approach to exclusives. Quote, in addition to having outright exclusive content, Sony has also entered into arrangements with third-party publishers which require the quote, exclusion of Xbox from the set of platforms these publishers can distribute their games on. Some prominent examples of these agreements include Final Fantasy VII Remake, Bloodborne, and the upcoming Final Fantasy 16, and the recently announced Silent Hill 2 remaster. So we've had a lot of, you know, speculations, rumors, conversations about, you know, what's going on behind the scenes. Why is Xbox not getting some of these games? It's safe to say that a lot of these high-profile ones, the ones that they listed here, are because PlayStation is paying for exclusivity, whether they're paying to publish the games or they're paying for, as Xbox said, for it to be excluded from the platform. PlayStation is strategically leaning into these third-party partners and saying, all right, we want this game on PlayStation. Here's a sack of money. Here's a big old sack of money to put it only on PlayStation. And so another interesting question I'll pose to you, and I'll kind of answer here, is what's stopping Xbox from doing the same? And should Xbox be doing the same? And this is something I've seen, really polar opposite, opinions on. A lot of people say, well, Xbox needs to be doing this. Xbox needs to be aggressive, and they need to lean into these third-party partnerships and say, all right, you know what? Well, PlayStation offered you this. We'll give you more. Because I know for a fact, the main reason that these companies get into these arrangements is not because they hate Xbox. It's because they're getting a bunch of money. And that is a hard offer to turn down. I did an editorial recently. I've talked to a lot of figures behind the scenes. I unfortunately don't have a lot of official statements, comments, because it's all complicated. There's NDAs, the legality. But, some of the sentiments that I've uncovered is that, it's scary. It's scary to publish a video game. There's no guarantee that a video game will ever do well. And when you're spending 4 to 5 years on a video game and you're investing years of your life and all of this money and all of these resources and it doesn't hit, oh my God, that puts your studio in such a horrifying, terrible position. And you have to figure out how you're going to fund the next game, where that money's coming from, and that constant pressure is just detrimental to the environment of making video games. So when somebody like PlayStation comes to you and says, all right, we're going to give you a bunch of money up front to pay for a lot of the development or to offset a lot of the development, a lot of people, that's the reason they're doing it, because it instantly alleviates that risk. It's a similar strategy with Xbox Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass says, you know what, we understand that this is scary. We understand that this is pressure. Put your game day one in Xbox Game Pass and we're going to guarantee you X amount of money. So on the Game Pass side, we're seeing Microsoft do very, very similar things to PlayStation's exclusive approach here. But a lot of fans think that Microsoft can be more aggressive, and I don't think there was anything necessarily stopping Xbox from countering these deals or bringing a more enticing deal to the table. Again, we don't know if this was done in the shadows. This was a sneaky side deal and Microsoft didn't know it was happening. That could be the case. I don't have any insights to any of that. But that being said, there is the world where Microsoft can, offer third-party publishers that. It's a matter of, does Microsoft think that's worth the money? Does Microsoft think that's going to grow their business? And are they willing to throw down more than what Sony's offering? And one thing that PlayStation has done well, because they understand they don't have a huge stable of first-party studios that can constantly pump out several games per year. That is one of the primary reasons they are so aggressive with these third-party deals, is because they have to fill the gaps. And so we get in a position with Microsoft in 2022 where they don't have those big third-party deals and they don't have a lot of first-party output. So then people say, well, Xbox doesn't have any big exclusives for a year. That's a huge bummer. PlayStation on their side, they will lean into those third-party deals and they'll make sure that whether it's first or third party, there's some exclusives on their platform because they need them. So it is this really interesting dynamic we're seeing unfold here. The big question is, will Final Fantasy VII Remake ever come to Xbox? We've seen some editorials and we've seen some people just say that this is a definitive statement that they won't ever come to Xbox. I don't really believe that that's what this wording indicates. We know that, Silent Hill 2 is a one-year exclusive. We don't know that it's coming to Xbox. That has not been confirmed. Final Fantasy VII Remake, similar situation. We know it was a timed exclusive for PlayStation. It's come to PC, but it hasn't come to Xbox. I think the terms of Final Fantasy VII have probably evolved. As PlayStation looked to lean into Final Fantasy more, as they looked to lock down exclusivity for Final Fantasy 16, I believe the deal could have evolved to basically shift that this is exclusive until this game, this trilogy is complete. Once the trilogy is out, then it can go to other platforms. And I'm kind of starting to wonder if that's the reality of this situation. Again, I don't know definitively whether this will or will not come to Xbox, but it's clear that PlayStation wants to make sure that those big high-profile pops for Final Fantasy are exclusive for as long as they possibly can. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how this all plays out and whether or not it will come to Xbox. I am of the camp that there is a possibility that it still could come. You know, whether I'm on hopium or copium, however you want to phrase that. I think there is a business reality because at this point, never say never. Remember when Dead Rising came to PlayStation? Remember when the Microsoft funded Dead Rising from Capcom came to PlayStation? So I'm firmly in the camp that, you know, never say never in these situations because you don't really know how things are going to evolve, how things will change. The only way, in my opinion, this is definitively never coming to Xbox is if PlayStation buys Square Enix. Will they buy Square Enix? I don't know. Will PlayStation be forced to have concessions that make Final Fantasy multi-platform if they do? I don't know. But I guarantee with how annoying and loud PlayStation has been about Activision Blizzard, Microsoft is going to be banging the hell out of that drum on the flip side of this. So that's the pro and con. You know, PlayStation, obviously, they're doing what they need to do for their business. They're saying what they need to say for the sake of the business. But on the other side, you can bet your sweet ass that people are going to be very loud when you try to do the same thing. So if, you know, PlayStation is trying to get Square Enix, I think it's going to be another ugly mess where Xbox comes out and say, hey now, wait a second. We just went through all this drama here, all right? We're bringing Call of Duty to more platforms on the other side. We're guaranteeing you Call of Duty for X number of years. Are you not going to extend the same offer for Final Fantasy? So, I don't know. I'm really curious to see how that all plays out. Let me get caught up on some super chats here. Appreciate you hanging out. Appreciate you rocking. All right. What do we got here? The J-Strum says, Miles, bought my sister a Series S. She has a slow internet, so I'm preloading games. Give me 5 Game Pass bangers to download. She loves horror. Okay. Getting that Series S. I know I was very tempted to buy my sister a Series S for the holidays as well, because she's a big PlayStation fan, but we've been playing a lot of multi-platform stuff together, and she's been really interested in Game Pass. And a lot of her favorite games, like Dead by Daylight and For Honor, are in Game Pass. So she's like, "Oh, damn, really?" And so she's been actively looking. So I have been tempted, haven't pulled the trigger. I got her something cheaper. You know, sorry, you know, I'm not balling that hard where I can just buy my family a Series S, even though I'd like to. 5 Game Pass bangers that are horror. Number 1, Dead by Daylight is a staple. Whether you're playing alone or playing with friends, Dead by Daylight is a classic Game Pass horror title. Signalis. If she's a fan of classic throwback survival horror, download Signalis. Check that bad boy out. Grounded, obviously. If you're playing multiplayer stuff, Grounded is an absolute must play. Love it. My wife, who is not a huge gamer per se, her and I have been playing a ton of Grounded. Absolutely adore that game. If you count the spiders and if you count the giant insects, I would say it's horror. There are moments where you go through a dark cave and I'm crapping my pants a little bit. So in some moments, Grounded is definitely a horror game. 2 more. Oh my God, put me on the spot here. Okay, this is tough. There's like hundreds of games, and I'm struggling to think of a few. I don't know if Hollow Knight, down Hollow Knight. That's a must play for sure. I think Secret Neighbor just left, but Hello Neighbor 2. There you go. There's 5. Okay, a few more. Jacob Novik, in a document to CMA, we may got the answer that Sony funded Final Fantasy VII Remake, but regardless, it had a sticker saying 1-year timed exclusive on the cover. At Boom Show, a friend of him working at the GameStop at the time said they got into promo material for Final Fantasy VII for Xbox. Yes. That is the interesting wrinkle here, is that originally this was a 1-year timed exclusive, and we saw some marketing material suggesting an Xbox version was coming. So that is why I believe that the Xbox version now, if, you know, depending on how this all plays out, is being shifted to, okay, well, when Final Fantasy VII Remake is done, you know, because they're milking it for a trilogy. So shout out to the people who love Final Fantasy VII Remake, because you're getting a trilogy out of it. So now I wonder if those are the terms. It's exclusive until the remake is done, which is now a trilogy. So now you have to wait for 3 parts. I don't know. But that is interesting. I have seen that marketing material. Oh, Jacob Novik following. Is this false marketing? I don't know. I don't know what the legality is, because that wasn't really widespread. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we are seeing some gamers sue Microsoft over the Activision Blizzard King deal. So if a bunch of gamers want to rally together and sue Square Enix and PlayStation, well, there you go. You got some precedent for it. Good luck in that legal battle. Okay. All right. Am I caught up on the super chats here? All right. It looks like it. Appreciate you all so much. All right. Now let's have a little fun. Now let's get a little wild and weird with it. And let's get into the best and worst games of 2022. Okay, so there are 10 categories here. 10 categories that I've come up with for the best and worst games of 2022. How this segment is going to work, very community-centric. You are going to be directly involved. Again, one more time for the people joining live, if you want to be a part of it, if you want your voice literally heard live on the show, go in the description of this video, join the Discord, and join the community Q&A channel. I'm hosting a holiday event in there, and we're going to be going through these categories. I'm going to say my pick for the title, and then I'm going to call on a community member to give their pick for these 10 categories. So as we're going through, to give you some time to mentally prepare for what's next, the 10 categories are the best nightly vibe game for the squad, and this is basically your biggest go-to multiplayer game in 2022, the most satisfying grind, your go-to gameplay loop, the best open world game, the best game nobody played, the most hype soundtrack, the best 6 out of 10 game, the best Xbox Game Pass game, the biggest disappointment, the worst game of the year, and the ultimate game of the year. So I'm excited. We're going to have a little fun. We're going to see how this works. This is an experiment for me, so I appreciate you guys hanging out, tuning in, and participating here. So let me see here. Let me see if I got this all set up right here. So if I turn this on, oh, there it is. All right, there's the Xbox Chaturdays Holiday Special Discord, all right? There it is. If you want to join in, you want to talk, join the Xbox Chaturdays Discord, pop in here, and let's see if we can get this going here. So, first up, the best nightly vibe game for the squad for me in 2022, it was Fortnite, y'all. And I know what some of you are thinking. What? Fortnite didn't come out in 2022. What are you doing putting on this on this list? Listen, I'm with you. I didn't think there was a world where I would be hooked on Fortnite in the year 2022. I played Fortnite at launch, got burnt out, and just dropped Fortnite like a ton of bricks for years. I came back maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, started dabbling, started dipping my toes in. And then when No Build dropped, I was like, oh, okay, I like this. I didn't like the building of Fortnite. That was my biggest turnoff. And now they've just consistently been giving me stuff I want to buy. They're sucking money out of me. We got Ash from Evil Dead. We got Doomslayer in here. We got Geralt in the new pass. So I've been grinding, and it's just been a nice, soothing game. When the squad jumps online, we don't know what to play. We're jumping in Fortnite. And again, I feel weird. I feel weird saying it. I didn't think I would be saying it, but the best nightly vibe game for the squad of 2022, in my eyes, is Fortnite. All right, so now it's time to call on the community. We got Hargi. Do you want to chime in on the best nightly vibe game for the squad? If you do, request. If not, for those watching live, drop it in the chat here and we'll do it that way. Mute myself. Boop. Hargeet, what is good? Hey.
How's it going?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing on this fine December 24th, 2022?
I'm doing well. Yeah,
Good.
I've been on vacation for like a month.
Yeah,
and I go back to work on like Jan 3. So I've had like 6 weeks of a vacation. So I've just been playing games.
I'm a little jealous.
Good.
I'm a little jealous. All right. What do you got for your best nightly vibe game for the squad? What's been the go-to for you and the homies on your weeknights?
It's been Halo Infinite. That's been it, right? Even with the drought of content, it was still so much fun. We've been doing a whole bunch of community nights. And then we suddenly got Forge, and then the co-op campaign. And I think I finished the campaign like 5-6 times now with many other players who haven't played it, and some who just wanted to get it on Legendary and Mythic. So that's been a lot of fun, and some of the Forge creations have been just amazing. So that's been it.
It's been really cool to see Halo have its moment, have the cool comeback arc, and to see people really connecting with Forge, and to see people diving back into the campaign. I know my squad has jumped back into the campaign with co-op now, and it's so great being able to use that grapple hook with friends. So yes, Halo Infinite. I'm really excited to see what the kickoff of next season looks like for that game, and hopefully that's the kind of redemption arc where a lot of the criticisms, fair or not, regarding Halo Infinite can kind of dwindle away, and we can just go back to
right?
just being excited about Halo Infinite. So shout out to Halo Infinite, locking down the community pick for the best nightly vibe game for the squad. All right, let's go into the most satisfying grind here. The most satisfying grind. And my pick for this is one that I think a lot of people are going to resonate with because it came out of nowhere and just consumed people's lives. And that's Vampire Survivors. Because, my God, the gameplay loop of Vampire Survivors is straight crack. It is just one of the most raw, addicting, to the point where it's probably unhealthy. Like, it got to the point where I just had to uninstall Vampire Survivors because I was just playing it too much. And I was like, okay, I'm losing 4 hours a night just getting sucked into this game. I need to stop. That being said, throwback to Castlevania, beautiful, love it, so damn good. Vampire Survivors, you are the most satisfying grind of 2022. Argy, what do you got? You got any picks for?
That was my answer too. It came out of nowhere, and I got recommended it, and I started playing it. I just couldn't stop. It's so good. It's stupid, but it's so good. You just keep playing it.
It is. You just walk. Like, I remember somebody explaining the game to me, and they're like, you just walk around and stuff happens. I'm like, that sounds stupid. What is that? You just walk? You don't even get to, like, manually attack? Like, no, it's an auto-battler roguelite, and you just walk. I'm like,
yeah, it's so good.
Okay. I like Castlevania, so I'll try it, whatever. And then, sure enough, dude, everyone I knew, within, like, 2 days was like, holy God, this is so good.
Yep.
So Vampire Survivors, I think that is a great pick across the board. All right. Next category, the best open world game. Everybody wants to be an open world game now. Pokemon, Elden Ring, everybody and their mother has said, you know what? Open world games, that's it. That's all we're doing. That's the future now. So there's been a lot of competition for open world games. My pick for best open world game in 2022 is, not surprising if you follow me on Twitter, Elden Ring. From Software, love them, adore them. They've had big, sprawling, open-ish RPGs for a while, but Elden Ring was their swan song into full-on open world. And so because of that, it was an absolute slapper, absolute banger. One of the best open world experiences I've played in my life. One of the best transitions into the open world formula. I put it on the same level of Breath of the Wild in terms of just raw impact for the industry. We got Mr. Joanna Dark in the chat here chiming in. All right, Mr. Joanna Dark, what do you got for the best game nobody played? Or, sorry, the best open world game.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect.
What's good? Welcome on.
Best open world game I played this year. I'm going to have to go with Dying Light 2.
Dying Light 2.
I think it's a very underrated game, and I think it did a lot of things that improved upon the first game. And I love the world building in the game, and kind of like the characters, and kind of how they slowly give you some of that lore, and just killing zombies never gets old.
Love that. It's a game that has been in my wish list for a while. It came out, again, sadly, just right before Elden Ring, so I knew I wasn't going to have time to play this big open world game. And then again, it's just been this onslaught of games ever since. So it's $30 right now as part of the Xbox Countdown sale. I'm looking at it. I'm eyeballing it pretty hard. Haven't given that a shot. Hargy, you got any other picks? Any other shouts? Or do you agree with either of these?
Mine was Elden Ring as well. I mean, it's just it came out of for me like nowhere as well, and because I never play Soulsborne games, so and then it just like was this massive world of craziness. So it was definitely the one.
It's again much like Skyrim. The moment Elden Ring had this moment where
Yep.
everyone was playing it. People you have never. I had friends I hadn't talked to in a straight decade hitting me up on Facebook saying, "Hey, dude, you playing Elden Ring?" I'm like, "You're goddamn right, I'm playing Elden Ring, but I'm happy to see that you're playing Elden Ring." Okay, next category is the best game that nobody played, and this is pretty much a game that was overlooked, underappreciated. My pick. It came out in January of this year. Got really overshadowed by a lot of high-profile titles, and that's Nobody Saves the World. If you haven't played it and you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, check it out. If you have any interest in top-down Zeldas, if that's ever been something you've appreciated, absolutely, this is an absolute must-play. It is probably the best game that Drinkbox has ever put out, and it really didn't get the same pop that stuff like Guacamelee did. So, Nobody Saves the World for me. Just one of the most overlooked, underappreciated games of 2022, and I talked to so many people who have not played it. Gentlemen, actually, wait, do we have a new challenger approaching? Kay Asante in the house? You wanna chime in on the best game nobody played? Hmm?
I wish we had Everborn because nobody plays Sonic.
Oh wow.
Oh wow, the slander in here. All right, yeah, here we go. Let's get Kay Asante in the house. Let's get this party popping. Appreciate y'all hanging out. Yo, what do you got for the best game nobody played in 2022?
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Oh, fantastic. So, first off, thank you for letting me on the show. Love the show. The best game nobody played for 2022, especially on Xbox, Immortality.
Immortality. Yes, I'm part of the problem. I haven't played Immortality. I want to. I've had so many people tell me that I need to play it.
Bro, I'm telling you, this was like, what was it, a week ago? I was part of the problem as well. A week ago, I saw Xbox was doing one of the Game Pass, what do you call it, the quests, play Immortality or load it up and get little points. I'm like, I'm not above it. I'll load it up. 3 hours later, I am still playing that game. It is amazing. I have it now downloaded. I may finish it before the end of 2022. It is really good, and nobody played it.
I need to. It's been installed since it launched. Day one, I installed it and said, "This looks weird as hell. I'm so ready for it." I had people DMing me saying, "Dude, you have to play Immortality. This is 100% your shit," and I still haven't played it. So, gentlemen, any other shout outs for games that people need to find some time either before the end of 2022 or going into 2023 that they need to play?
Um, I would have to say one of my favorites is Neon White. This game came out of nowhere for me. I started watching videos, and then it was one of those games, kind of like with Vampire Survivor, which just hooked me, trying to beat my best time, and just not only just the level design of how you would think after X amount of levels things would get very repetitive, but it has amazing level design, and it has this like hook that just keeps you wanting to beat your score, and the story overall is amazing. So, if you can, I would highly recommend Neon White to anyone.
Neon White, love it. That loop, that is the one more time loop in its
Yep.
purest form. The dialogue, I mashed A through it. Sue me. I
Come on,
thought the visual
Miles.
novel portion of it was just
That was my favorite part.
obnoxious. So your boy was just mashing A through all the dialogue, and then when that gameplay hit, ooh, oh.
Something.
I'm with you, Miles. I'm with you.
No, the game
Too much
reminded me
dialogue.
of Reservoir Dogs in the sense of how the characters
wow.
are portrayed with the different colors. If you guys seen Reservoir Dogs, so it kind of gave me that vibe, and I just like the whole thing about you're a demon hunter trying to stay in heaven, and then kind of finding the overall plot. I mean, I guess I play those kind of like Danganronpa games, so for me it
Okay.
was kind of yeah,
Danganronpa, which is what I'm playing now.
yeah. Danganronpa is awesome.
So I would recommend Trek to Yomi, which I think did get a little traction, but I think that one's pretty good. If people missed that one, try that out. And then As Dusk Falls, which was another great
Yeah.
exclusive for Xbox.
I've seen a lot of people in the chat shouting out As Dusk Falls. So
Yeah, so
that's a really great narrative game to play with friends too.
Exactly, and it seemed to to catch people by surprise if they tried it out. That the story was pretty good. It gripped you immediately, and you started playing through it.
One last guess
so-
from me: Midnight Fight Express.
Midnight Fight.
play
Oh
Yes.
yeah, that had
Oh
a
my God.
very quiet launch with.
Nobody played that, and it's amazing. I know it's doing Sifu better than Sifu. I get it. Sifu killed it as
Oh,
far as the evolution of the beat 'em up and all that, but still, Midnight Fight Express deserves some
uh,
respect.
I'll
Absolutely.
g- I'll give another one. It's called The Night Witch. I just played this past week. The Night Witch is basically a Metroidvania 2D style game with mixed with the bullet hell. Amazing story, basically about these witches that kind of get mutated, kind of like The Witcher, and their powers are based off of people believing in them. And it's like a really deep story and an addicting gameplay where it feels like Doom, where you kind of go into a section and it becomes kind of an arena and you're trying to figure out how to take all the enemies without getting hit. So it's pretty cool. It's called The Night Witch.
The Night Witch, yeah, a lot of great picks there. Let's move on to our next category, which is the most hype soundtrack. Not the best soundtrack,
No,
the
oh,
most
no.
hype soundtrack. The soundtrack that got you the most amped when you were in the game. For me, this is a two-way tie. This is a two-way tie between Elden Ring, because that title track is it is one of the best pieces of video game music ever created. Hands down, bar none. When that intro hits, every time I boot up the game, I sit on the title screen until the toms come in. And just the huge explosion into the orchestral music. My God, that gets me amped every time. And then number 2, Metal Hellsinger, because that entire soundtrack is just raw hype. So many of the best metal vocalists of all time on some just truly amazingly written tracks by Two Feathers, this two-person kind of a composition team. God, I've been listening to that soundtrack on repeat every single day for the last couple months. So many good tunes. Gents, what do you got for the most hype soundtrack of 2022?
So for me, it's a cheat because it's Halo Infinite, and because I've just played that campaign again several times, and it brings back like the original Halo soundtrack, and it just has these feels. I don't know, that's just the way it is. Halo just brings back those Halo
Those
feels.
feels.
Yeah, whatever it is, like that original Halo soundtrack that just comes up, it just makes you want it, like, oh yes, here we go, Master Chief song is the thing. For me, it's Halo.
Oh, shout out another wicked drum track. Holy crap. The drummer for that soundtrack just goes hard. Too hard sometimes. The dude's just absolutely crushing the toms on some of those tracks. So, yeah, that soundtrack is really, really damn good.
I'm gonna let Mr. Joanna Dark go next because my choice, people gonna hate me, and I see some in the chat.
Oh,
Go ahead,
Uh-oh.
Mr.
I mean, I thought Miles was gonna hate me. I want to say Code Veronica. I'm just joking. Um, no. I would have to. I agree with you, Miles, on Metal Hellsinger, but I'm gonna say, Plague Tale Requiem. The way the music plays and it just kind of gets you into the scene. Like, a lot of games sometimes don't get the music right when it comes to like situations, but that soundtrack is just amazing and kind of gets you kind of really invested and very immersed into the overall world of that game.
Every time the strings come in when there's going to
Yep.
be rats, ooh, I just tense up. And I'm like, oh no, it's going down. And so that's powerful. When 2 notes of your soundtrack can set the tone of a scene and immediately put you on edge, that's how you know that soundtrack is incredible. So yeah, Plague Tale Requiem. Beautiful. All right, Kaysons, you're here to upset everyone? Is that what's
Yeah. So those who watch my show and know me and my brother Everborn Saga, we go back and forth a lot. And I know Joanna Dark is going to jump in on this. I have to say, hate me or not, as the visual walkthrough says right there, Sonic Frontiers. I'm sorry.
Sonic Frontier? Sonic
Yeah,
gets
bro.
memed on, but it's generally had pretty amazing music. A lot of new age
soundtrack is
jazz
excellent.
fusion.
The soundtrack is excellent. It gives you, it harkens you back to the best times of when Sonic was at its greatest. And obviously Frontiers is trying to thread the needle on something new while also giving you nostalgia with their cyber levels and whatnot. And in specific instances, in their open zone, it's like whatever. But in those old school, harken back to the old school levels, the 3D that they've done in Frontiers, the music is bar none. It's absolutely excellent. So
There we go. Sonic getting some love. All right. I know Sonic fans have had it rough. Okay. I get it. I know there's diehards out there that try to tell me that every Sonic game is good. And I know that's not true. That's not true. But
Oh,
it
we
is
all know that's not true.
but it is great to see Sonic Frontiers getting some love, getting some
Everborn
recognition.
Saga is still upset right now because Sonic did not beat Ragnarok in sales by this Christmas. But
I mean, did you really think that? I mean, come
I
on.
mean, it was
I,
hilarious that he even argued with me. But that's
I mean, they even put it at bargain bin prices, like to the point that it's like
Stop it.
a carton of milk, and it still didn't beat it.
It's
This is what Johanna Dark loves. He loves the Sonic slander. We'll
just
move
love
on.
the slander. Okay, next category. This is an interesting one here, and this is one that I'm excited to talk about, and that's the best 6 out of 10 game of 2022. And this
Oh,
is a
man.
game that you enjoy despite its faults. It's a game that has obvious faults that any person can't really ignore, but you still love. You still had a great time with it, or it resonated with you in a certain way. For me, it's got to be Dragon Ball The Breakers. This is a weird Frankenstein, ugly, janky amalgamation of Fortnite and Dead by Daylight set in the Dragon Ball Z universe. It's weird. It's not very pretty to look at, but the gameplay loop is just so fascinating and so unique, and they've found this really beautiful way to incorporate what makes Dragon Ball such a iconic franchise and bring it to a genre that I never would have imagined. When this was revealed, the debut trailer dropped, and I saw this and I was like, why on earth are they making this video game? Why is this being made? And I've put in, I think, 60 hours since it's dropped. Something like I put in way too much time into this. So for me, Dragon Ball The Breakers, the best 6 out of 10 game of 2022. What you got, gents?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna say Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights.
Okay.
To me,
Oh my.
one of the things is it's you got to forget that it's not trying to be Arkham City or any of the Arkham games. It's trying to be its own comic book game, and I don't think WB Montreal gets the credit they deserve when it comes to villains and the overall lore. If you're a big comic book fan, and Gotham Knights is amazing. I love the gameplay loop. I love just going around and trying to find out more about the story and kind of the world. And even for someone that doesn't read a lot of the Batman comics, getting to learn up more about the villains, I think it does a fantastic job. And I think it's overshadowed by some of the other things that kind of, went with, the 30 FPS and so forth. But I think even now with the updates, it's definitely up there. And I would recommend it to anyone right now, especially if that's on sale. If on PC it's like $25, and I think on console it's like 39. But yeah, Gotham Knights is hands down 6 out of 10.
Gotham Knights. Just my buddy gifted me a copy of Gotham Knights so we could play it in co-op. So that was my Christmas present from him. So I'm only a few hours in, but it's been fun. Despite the 30 FPS, we're playing on Series X. Despite all of that, I've really enjoyed the overall gameplay loop so far. So I know a lot of people, when that got panned critically, I saw a lot of people speaking about how they're still liking it despite its flaws. So I think that's a good shout for best 6 out of 10.
I mean, Miles, you pay Pokemon at 2 frames a second, so
exactly. I'm not gonna skirt at 30 FPS.
So I mean, Gotham Knights was
go ahead,
a good answer.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
Mark,
So
please.
you want me to go or you want to go?
Yeah, no, you go. 100%.
All right.
Go.
Yeah. So Gotham Knights was going to be mine, but there's a new one that just came out that also has a very low rating that apparently is very good that I haven't even had a chance to start yet, which is High on Life.
High on Life.
Oh my God, yes.
I knew it.
Sorry, Asante. Yeah. So apparently that is. I mean, everybody who's played it and finished it, they're like, "This is a great game." And unfortunately, it's it maybe just didn't resonate as far as the humor or something, and somehow it's been critically kind of bombed. And then but for those who've played it, they seem to like it, right? So it's either terrible for you, you can't stand the humor, or it resonates enough and you play through it and it works. But
I finished.
Yeah, that's the other one. Gotham Knights would be my answer.
Amazing game. High on Life. Absolutely amazing game. I don't understand the score. I get that humor, subjective and all that, but even as a competent, just a shooter alone, it is a Doom shooter, literally Doom Eternal, right? With goofy skin and lots of humor. I don't understand that score. It's ridiculous. It should be at least a 7, if not an 8. if
I've
not.
never watched Rick and Morty, and
Mhm.
I started watching Rick and Morty after playing this game because the humor is just like, oh my god, it's just this. It's similar so far from what I've seen with Rick and Morty. So, I like what is it? Trover Saves the Universe,
Hmm.
Yeah,
and that was fantastic in VR. I thought it was
yeah.
hilarious. So that's another great one.
Yeah, shout
So
out to High on Life.
since you guys stole mine, I guess the last one I'll do, which still kind of counts, Evil West.
Evil Wet,
Yeah.
yeah, that's another
Yes.
great 6 out of 10 shout right there.
Absolutely, it's really fun. It's 360 game in the best way possible. People thought that was a pejorative. It's not. It's a feature, not a bug. It's really fun. Go in, you kill monsters. Brainless. Hit next when the cutscenes start because you don't care. Just keep going. It's good.
You're just there to kill demons. And sometimes that's all we want. Sometimes that's all we need. All right, it doesn't need to be overly complicated. Doesn't need to change the world forever. Sometimes it just needs to come out and be fun. All right, and I think High on Life is another great example of that because, like you mentioned, the gameplay itself is so good. I was so impressed. It's basically like a Metroidvania shooter. Like you get guns, and those guns give you new platforming powers that allow you to traverse areas you couldn't get to before. So if you're a fan of that loop, like getting new powers and experimenting with weird, quirky guns, so good. You can beat it if you just do the main story. You can do it in 6 hours too. So it does not overstay its welcome. I beat it in about 8 hours. Did some of the side stuff, and so good, so good. Okay, I'm gonna get to a quick super chat here before we move on to the next one. And that is from Jacob Novik, who says, thoughts on Nick saying that he has heard that Xbox may want to make another deal with Atlas to release Shin Megami Tensei 4, 5, and 6 on Xbox. I've obviously, anyone who follows me knows I've been very vocal about Xbox in Japan, how Xbox can improve in Japan, what franchises they could and should be targeting. Shin Megami Tensei is another one. Original Xbox did have one Shin Megami Tensei game released only in Japan, but since then, the franchise has never been on the platform. Those would be great gets. And those would, again, further show their commitments to Japan and that market. So I think those are smart moves. I think those are moves they could get without spending millions and millions of dollars. And I think that would be another way to show your Japanese fans that you are serious about the franchise that they love. Because we get caught up in our bubble of like, oh, I'm from the US. I don't care about Japanese games, or I don't care about X games, whatever. But the reality is, if Xbox wants to be a global brand, and Xbox wants to have a global presence, they don't have the luxury of ignoring certain fan groups or certain markets. And it's just something they haven't been the most consistent with. So, great get. I don't have any insight as to whether or not that's happening. Next category, Best Xbox Game Pass Game. And this is a game that launched in Xbox Game Pass in 2022. And for me, the best Xbox Game Pass game of 2022 is Grounded, baby. Absolutely adore Grounded. I'm a huge fan of survival games. Played Ark hundreds and hundreds of hours. Every time there's a new survival game, whether it be Green Hell, whether it be the upcoming Nightingale, whether it be any survival game. Lost Oasis I played a bunch of. I'm a sucker for the survival loop, and Grounded is one of the most tightly produced and polished and just infectiously fun survival games that I've ever played. Love the setting to death. One of my favorite video game worlds of the last several years. So authentic, so fun, and it's not afraid to just be itself. And I think that is, it got, some flack for being cartoony or whatever, but I adore the art style, and I adore Grounded. So for me, Grounded, best Xbox Game Pass game of 2022.
So if I had to pick one, I would say let's go with the highest meta-rated game that went in there, and that would be Persona, which I haven't even started yet. But Persona 5 has
Ooh,
got to be the best Xbox Game Pass game that came in this year.
that is one of the highest rated JRPGs of all time. So
Yeah, it's like in mid-90s, right? 95 or something like that.
yeah, so that's an absolute banger. Day one in Xbox Game Pass. All right, what's next? What else we got for best Xbox Game Pass game?
I mean, how about the greatest game that released this year? The GOAT known as Vampire Survivors. I'm sorry.
Ooh.
Vampire Survivors. Come on now.
I mean, I know a
You
lot
can play
of
it
you're not
anywhere,
the
but
only
still.
one. A lot of people were saying, "Yo, Vampire Survivors needs to be in consideration for Game of the Year. Needs to be."
Absolutely. It is the quintessential if it's an award based on games, and games obviously mean gameplay. This is bar none the purest form of gameplay, and it's so deep you just don't know it because it looks goofy and it looks it looks Neo Geo 8-bit or whatnot. But still, if you get into it, those who have been playing it, and I think shout out to Mr. Boomstick, he's like 100 hours in. I'm like 50 some odd hours in. It is insane how much depth this weird 2D thing has, how much depth it has. So yes, definitely. I think it's a crime for any award show, any awards, not to even have that into consideration. So definitely Vampire Survivors.
Vampire Survivors. Any other shouts for best Xbox Game Pass game?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Plague's Tale Requiem.
Ooh!
I think this game vastly improved of the original one, and it did something that I don't think many games do. I'm gonna quickly say Last of Us, I think, is one of those games, part two, that makes you kind of really feel the weight of things, and I feel that Plague Tale Requiem made you feel the weight of what Amicia was feeling, and when you're taking someone's life and kind of survive what that feels like in the sense of what the character is. So I think it did a great overall, and I love a lot of the characters you get to meet throughout the adventure and the overall just experience.
That's a great shout. That game was emotional, impactful. It delivers that single-player, compelling narrative that a lot of Xbox fans have wanted. That was a great pick for Game Pass, and I'm really excited that they were able to secure that day and date because it was in the nominations for Game of the Year this year, and for good reason.
And what Asobo's done overall on a technical level is just incredible.
Killing it. Absolutely killing it. All right, next category. This show's mostly positive, and it will mostly stay positive. But we got to talk about a couple categories that, are unfortunate, but they're part of the conversations of gaming in any given year. And the first category is the biggest disappointment. The game you were either excited about or a game that just completely underdelivered for you as a player. Mine might be controversial. I don't know. But my biggest disappointment of 2022 was Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2, I'm just butchering this, hold on, sorry. Overwatch 2 is a sequel in the most cynical way possible. It is a sequel only in marketing bucks, and it's a sequel only in technicality. It doesn't deliver anything much in the way of new features. It rebalanced the game. It took away the player count. It will eventually add PvE features. I know it's technically in beta, but the marketing machine behind this even leaned into the fact that it was Overwatch, but with a 2. And that was just... I know they made it free to play. I know that they shaved it, but really all that highlights is how much they completely fumbled and mismanaged the original Overwatch. Because Overwatch could just have had a better consistent support and a better consistent rollout of content, and then we wouldn't be in this weird situation where Overwatch 2 is this thing. They could have also just re-released Overwatch as free to play, like we've seen so many other ongoing games do, but instead the old school Activision, the old school marketing money just said, you know what, this has to be a sequel because we put a number at the end and people are excited about it. And so they didn't add much in terms of characters. They didn't add much in terms of content. They didn't add much to keep me excited. And I actually don't really even like the balance of 5v5 versus the 6v6 anymore. So I played it for a couple weeks at launch and then became incredibly frustrated and just put it down. And I've now uninstalled it. So I don't see myself going back to Overwatch 2 in the foreseeable future. Hugely disappointed. That's mine.
Let me give y'all mine real quick before it's stolen. And it was this year. People seem to forget. Well, people probably want to forget. Crossfire X, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, Crossfire X.
I'm just gonna give it to you.
It didn't give anything. I will say it started off. I was interested when it was first announced because, believe it or not, the original Crossfire still is one of the most played games in the world just by sheer numbers.
Yep.
And when the game first started and the idea was there, and you hear Remedy's doing the campaign, and I eventually played Remedy's campaign, which was really, I won't say it was bad, but it was unusual, right? It's not what you expect from these potential Call of Duty likes, if you will, if that's a genre on itself. But yeah, ultimately the game was a huge disappointment. Technical issues, just balancing issues, the potential weapons that they give you, and the features and I guess you could call it magic. There's some magic in there. It's just very, very strange, some of the decisions they made. And then technically it also came out really bad. So I hear there's been many, many updates, and some people are still playing it. But yeah, I don't think that Stank will ever get off of that name, to turn it around. There's a world where you have games like No Man's Sky, which renovate and change their perception. I don't foresee Crossfire ever getting to that place. So I would say Crossfire is the worst of it.
R.I.P. What else we got for biggest disappointment of 2022?
Ooh, I think that's the worst one.
I mean, that is
So-
one of the worst.
So does it have to be Xbox?
No, it can be anything, right?
Yeah.
All right.
yeah.
So me personally, and I want to make sure that way there's no misunderstanding. To me, it was Horizon Forbidden West.
Oh.
Ooh.
But no. But let me explain real quick.
Wow.
You're stoking the
Okay.
console
I,
wars.
I came off the high of loving the first one. After I tried it, I sat down and played it. I was like, oh my god, it's phenomenal, and I was hyped. But for some reason, the same thing that I had with the first one, it just didn't. It's a beautiful game, but it just didn't capture me. And for some reason, I can't seem to like really be captivated by Aloy. And I think Aloy's the issue. I am probably gonna go back and play it at some point again, but I just moved on to Dying Light 2, and it wasn't what the high that I felt for the first one after finishing it. Going into this one, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to find out. And then I got into it 20 hours in, and I was like, oh man, let me just come back another time.
I am 200 plus hours into that game because my daughter just loves all those monsters that we get to
Nice.
fight.
Well, yeah, the fighting is great. I like the overall concept. It's basically Monster Hunter with a great story, but it's just for some reason, something about it just doesn't get me. And again, this is just a me problem, I think.
Oh, don't get me wrong, brother. You're not the first person to say this to me. It is funny when it is said, but you're not the first person to tell me that it is your worst game of the year. Yeah, some people just it didn't connect. It makes
And I
sense.
want to make it clear, I play all types of games. It just wasn't for me, but I guarantee you, I'm gonna be a fraud maybe a year from now, just like I did with the first one, and I'm gonna go play it and be like, oh my god, this was incredible. Once I got past the point of that I wasn't as entertained, and hey, it is what it is, right? That's what happens sometimes.
All right. What else we got on there?
So I've got one that people will really get annoyed with.
Sonic Frontiers.
I did not like Plague Tale Requiem. I liked
Oh
the
my
first one.
God.
I
okay,
could
okay.
not
Here we go.
stand the second one. So for me, that was the biggest disappointment.
Hargy, was it Hugo? Hugo that turned you off?
Whoa!
It wasn't Hugo. It was I don't want to give away too much of the story, but in the first one, you're building up the universe, so you understand why you're kind of doing the things you're doing. In the second one, I just don't get the motivation, right? When you're, and it's hard to not give away things, but all these people are being affected, and you're like, there's a simple solution to this. Why is this not just the obvious answer? Why is this game? Why does it even exist? Right? And especially with the ending, I don't get what the whole point of the game was. It also did not feel like a stealth game. It made you fight. And I'm like, it's just so different from what I expected from the first that I hated it. I hated the experience.
So,
So for me, that was
no
very big
spoilers when you talk about that.
that's what I'm saying. I don't want to spoil anything, but like the whole premise of the game just did not sit with me at all.
To me, recommend. This is not even spoiler. It gave me the thing of, how far would you go for someone that you love when you know what the outcome has to be, or everyone tells you something, and you're trying. And I guess to me, as someone who enjoyed it, it was the growth also of Amicia, seeing her as a person who was sort of vulnerable in the first game to now kind of turning into that point where she's this person that's trying to protect the person she loves. That's all I'm going to say about that. But hey, it's understandable. Some people cannot like it or not.
I mean, there's another one I would say that was kind of disappointing to me, but it wasn't a big disappointment. It was Rainbow Six Extraction. I was kind of hoping for more from that, but that kind of fizzled. But yeah.
Yeah, that game was fun. And I think my expectations for that were very low. So I guess I wasn't that disappointed because I expected it to be a big dud, and it ended up being okay. So pleasantly surprised by that one. Okay, next category, and this is going to be a controversial one, as always. People are going to be, hot and heavy and have their thoughts, but we got to talk about the worst game of 2022. And mine, for me, is obvious. It is one of the most confusing games I've ever played. It's one of the biggest misses that I've experienced in my entire career playing video games. It's a game from a studio and from a publisher that has been on fire and absolutely crushing it time and time again, and that is Resident Evil Re:Verse. So Re:Verse, if you're unfamiliar, was supposed to ship with Resident Evil Village as the multiplayer kind of spin-off side companion game for Resident Evil Village. It is a arena deathmatch style game where you get to play as Resident Evil heroes, and then when you die, you transform into a monster. And it's got a bunch of iconic monsters like Nemesis and Jack from Resident Evil 7. And so the overall concept is silly and fun. It's in RE Engine, and it is just one of the worst looking things in RE Engine. It is definitely the worst playing game I've ever experienced in the RE Engine, and it is a multiplayer experience that, and this is going to sound harsh, and I don't really mean it to be I'm not saying it just to be mean. I don't know how it was signed off on. I genuinely don't understand how Capcom, of all publishers, said, okay, we're going to put this out. And it was unbelievably bad. It's got my lowest review score ever. It wasn't broken. It wasn't, it ran fine. But that being said, the overall concept just was a huge miss. A huge miss. So Resident Evil Re:Verse is the worst game of the year. I can't think of one that even comes close. But what do you gents got?
I think Asante and I are going to have the same one. Crossfire X.
See, I was gonna go back to Crossfire, but I gave enough smoke to Crossfire, so my next one was gonna be Babylon's Fall. But please go ahead, Hargy.
Yeah, so and you're right for that one too, right? It totally failed within a year, not even like 6 months. But yeah, I'll say Crossfire. All the hype, big name Remedy, and they did something that, I mean, they don't usually put out games that are terrible. They're usually pretty good, and this was just a massive, massive dud. So
yeah. Yeah, Crossfire did not deliver for a lot of people. Okay, what else we got? Any other shouts for worst game of 2022?
So, like I said, Babylon's Fall.
Yep.
It looked
Oh,
interesting in the
yeah.
trailers. It did. It looked interesting in the trailers. I was one of the unfortunate fools that actually bought it before it went downhill, and everybody they started giving it away. It is what it is. Some games in the world we live in now, unlike back in the day when you really had to do that. You judge the book by its cover. This time it looked interesting to me. Ultimately, the loop was boring. It didn't work out. It was kind of bland, and I picked it up. I was like, I didn't really care about this, and I didn't make a big deal out of it because I tend to only champion games I love. If I don't like something, I put it to the side. I don't really yell about it. But then, of course, I started hearing all yelling, and ultimately the game closed up shop right before it even got going. So there you go.
All
So,
right.
I have one to add onto the list, and this will probably be controversial. I would say Saints Row.
Saints Row.
Ooh.
A lot of people were
as
mad about Saints Row.
as a fan of the series, I tried to get into it, and I know there's some quests that people say it's good, but how many hours do you have to put in before you get to the good part? And it just didn't feel right. I mean, I understood that they were trying to go kind of so it could feel a little bit like the original Saints Row, but just overall, it just didn't have that oomph. Especially after going back and playing the remastered of Saints Row the Third, which is like the best one in the series. I didn't like it at all. I just thought it was just like a carbon copy open world game of just like generic characters that I just want to punch in the face.
Yeah, I put Saints Row in the same category as Crackdown 3, where it's not a very good game with a bad story. But if you have the right friends to play it with, or right friend, I should say, it's 2-player co-op, it's entertaining. But yeah, Saints Row, the reboot didn't really set a great foundation for the future of the franchise. It didn't really, get Saints Row competing with the Grand Theft Autos of the world. It was just kind of a just good enough open world sandbox, and In this day and age, that's with so many open world games, that's just not enough for a lot of people, I think. All right, final category. Final category of the show today, and that is the ultimate game of the year. And this is your pick for the game of the year, the best game that you've played this year. For me, again, easy pick, Elden Ring, hands down, game of the year. I'll briefly talk about it, and I've talked about this before, but the beauty of Elden Ring is the impact it had for the games industry as a whole. And having so many people connect and look at this niche, hard as hell RPG with cryptic storytelling in a brutal world that just destroys you. What I love most about Elden Ring is the world doesn't revolve around you as the player. You are a figure. You are a small, insignificant piece of this world, and you get to immerse yourself into it. Those are my favorite games of all time. Legend of Mana, one of the main reasons I love that game as well, or some of the same reasons I love Elden Ring, is you get to participate in the world. You get to participate with these characters. And these things and events happen regardless of where you go or when you choose to go to them. And so it feels like a living, breathing thing that you get to immerse yourself in and be a part of, as opposed to the very linear, the story is set, the story is going to happen. You are watching the story unfold. No, in Elden Ring, you are the story. You are the narrative. You are the driving force of this entire experience. And that type of gameplay and that type of game design, for me, is so important and so impactful. And Elden Ring just delivered on so many levels. Incredible soundtrack. Amazing art direction. Some of the best color balance in any video game ever. Every single location, every single biome feels distinct, feels unique. You can remember it. You can feel it. When you go to Caelid for the first time, you feel that. You feel Caelid. You feel the uncomfortable sense. When you see the gold and green, you get this sense of wonder and beauty. Elden Ring is probably my game of the generation. I have the game of the decade, at least. This is such an achievement and such a boon for the industry. So that's my pick for game of the year.
Yeah, so mine is a cheat because Halo wasn't considered last year. So for Game Awards, I still think it's Halo Infinite. Having played that campaign over and over for the last month or so, it's still just so good. The last two missions where you start seeing all the narrative come out of what happened. I mean, it's so good. Yes, it's abruptly stopped, but we knew that, right? So, but yeah, it's still so good. And the gameplay loop in Halo is still, the campaign part is just so great. So I'm still going with that.
Halo, Hargy out here padding the Halo Infinite numbers.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Hey, Hargy, I loved Halo Infinite, so I agree with you.
Yep.
So
Thanks.
I will come at you guys with a little different. Since we have 73 people in here. Please don't forget to hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. I would say since there's 73 people in here, chances are 73 people didn't play this game, and it is actually I'm looking real quick in here. It is one of the highest rated games on Xbox in April when it came out in April, and it's still really high up there. It is one of my favorite genres. Now I'm a roguelite person. I love that stuff. And I'm also really big on indie games. I love when small, one person, two people, three people, small groups make magical things. They set the standard when they made the first one, and they moved it forward in the second one. Rogue Legacy 2.
Oh man,
Ooh,
yes.
Good shout.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
If you haven't
Rogue
played
Legacy,
it, people,
baby.
it is amazing, amazing single player indie. It is awesome. If you like roguelikes, this is the game for you. It is absolutely fantastic. And yes, because it's roguelike and because it's an indie and because it's 2D, it won't stand toe to toe with the Elden Rings of the world. And actually, I'm like looking at the list by score right now. Do you know what the number one Metacritic score of 2022 is? Not Elden Ring. Well, it's tied. It's Elden Ring and the Portal 2, Portal 1 companion that came with it.
Yeah, I mean those are all-time
So
classics.
there you go.
Yeah.
And those are classics, of course.
Yeah.
No, but you should, if you guys haven't tried Rogue Legacy 2, play the first one too, because the first one's also amazing. But Rogue Legacy 2 this year, to me, if it's not on anybody's game of the year list, if nothing else, you've heard it. You're going, hey, what is that game? You know, it's being talked about in such glowing regard. Go pick it up. It's very good.
Rogue
Fantastic.
Legacy 2. What final pick for Ultimate
Oh.
Game of the Year?
All right. So I have two, but I'm gonna go with the one with my heart that I need to go, and it's gonna be Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Ooh,
It is
Xenoblade
one-
Chronicles 3.
As a huge Xeno Saga, Xenoblade, Xenogears fan, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was basically a culmination of what Monolith has done. But what it also did, it took a lot of the stuff that kind of hamper the experience when it comes to like quests and everything, and it gave you these kind of quality of life improvements. But the story was phenomenal. The way it started, the messaging, all these different tropes that it threw at you. The combat was fantastic. And from start to finish, I was hooked. I mean, I put in 166 hours into that game. And what I loved also that I loved like The Witcher 3 was the side quests were meaningful when you went to get some characters and kind of you wanted to go and find out who the next hero was so you can add them to your team and kind of mess around. So the only thing I think I would say about that game was towards the end when I think it fell apart where it took me almost an hour to fight the last boss, which I was like, oh man, I'm done. I want to just finish the game. But overall, I think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 to me was my game of the year overall, personally.
Beautiful. People were rooting for it. It was really cool to see that get some flowers in the nominees this year. I know that franchise is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, and sounded like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 raised the bar. So, gents, appreciate you hanging out. Appreciate you joining me. This was a fun little experiment. We'll see if I'll do some more of this stuff in the future, but appreciate you guys chiming in, sharing your support. I'm going to shut down the call here and jump back to the show. But if I don't hear from you guys in the interim, have a beautiful holiday, have a beautiful new year, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you
Great
too.
show,
Thank
sir.
you.
Great show. Have fun. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays,
Talk
everyone.
to y'all soon.
Yep.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Okay. Well, that was fun. That was a fun little experiment. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm going to do a quick recap of what we have for our official list here. So, based on the picks of me and the prestigious community, here are the best and worst games of 2022. The best nightly vibe game for the squad, Fortnite, Halo Infinite. The most satisfying grind, we have Vampire Survivors, just unanimous. The best open world game, we have Elden Ring and Dying Light 2. The best game nobody played, we have Nobody Saves the World, Immortality, Neon White, and As Dusk Falls. The most hyped soundtrack, we have Elden Ring and Metal Hellsinger, and Halo Infinite, A Plague Tale Requiem, and Sonic Frontiers. Lots of love in the music category. Best 6 out of 10 game, Dragon Ball The Breakers, Gotham Knights, High on Life, and Evil West. The best Xbox Game Pass game, we have Grounded, Persona 5 Royal, Vampire Survivors, and A Plague Tale Requiem. The biggest disappointment, we have Overwatch 2, Crossfire X, Horizon Forbidden West, and a Plague Tale Requiem. That one hits hard for me. That's hard to read. I'm gonna say that. I don't condone all of these. That's there's a distinction with the community picks here. Gotta stress that. The worst game of the year, we have Resident Evil Re:Verse, Crossfire X, Babylon's Fall, and Saints Row. And the ultimate game of the year, we have Elden Ring, Halo Infinite, Rogue Legacy, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Well, that was a lot of fun. That was an interesting experiment. I'm glad we got to hang out with the community. Appreciate all those amazing people for tuning in. If you're not familiar with them, they are all incredible figures in the community. They all have amazing shows for the most part. And check them out. Support what they do. One more super chat here from Jacob Novik, who says, I'm excited for something in 2023. A game. It may be delayed, but the dev, 2-star, has this goal. Choo Choo Charles, a console launch of the Steam game where you're traveling in a train on a rail track and now they're trying to kill an evil spider train. Yes, Choo Choo Charles. Viral hit. If you haven't seen that, such a weird, cool idea where, yes, you are fighting an evil spider train. All right, folks. Well, I think that is going to do it for this week's episode of Xbox Chaturdays and the final episode of Xbox Chaturdays of the year. As we head towards the end, if you have any final questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Actually, sorry, before I wrap this up, hold on. I need to remember, because we have this fancy new Discord, we have a burning questions section of the show. So towards the back end of the show now, I'm going to take questions from our Discord, an array of questions curated from our amazing Discord members. So sorry, we're not quite done. We're almost done here, but I'm going to get to a couple questions and then we're going to wrap this up. First up, we have Norm Skeeson, and sorry if I butcher these. If Xbox do give us an early showcase next year or more frequent direct style updates, do you think it's likely that they'll stick with the 12-month release roadmap at E3, or will they go back to using that particular event to show off games coming out further down the line? That's an interesting question. What I imagine is going to happen is a mix of both. They are going to have more frequent showcases, which are designed to showcase the short term, get people excited about the short-term future, and then they can leverage the bigger showcases for new announcements, stuff that may be further out. I think in terms of gameplay, their approach, generally speaking, is if you're seeing gameplay, it's probably coming in 12 months. And so that's why some of the stuff that we've had announced, we haven't seen gameplay for because we don't know quite when it's coming. But I think going into the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase next year, I think it'll be more of a mix of both. That being said, I did like the 12-month format. I just hope if they don't do that, that they have something in the interim that says, these are the games you're playing in the next 3 months or 6 months or whatever cadence they decide is. I think quarterly would be ideal, but I know that is a lot of work and tough to produce. And then Phantom King asked about the Final Fantasy VII Deluxe Edition, which was labeled as a timed exclusive. We did talk about that, so if you missed that, circle back to the midway point of the show. We did talk about that. And one more question for Norm Skisan. Do you think that the rumored passion project from Tango Gameworks that is said to be getting shown at the upcoming Xbox Showcase will be the non-horror game that Shinji Mikami expressed interest in making? So if you're unfamiliar with this rumor, I believe it was Jeff Grubb, maybe some others have talked about the rumored upcoming Xbox Showcase and a smaller scale Pentiment-ish project from Tango Gameworks potentially being there. I will say I don't really have any additional information on that. That being said, if that is the case, I think Microsoft has been using, that titles like Pentiment, titles like Grounded to, get some goodwill, earn some trust, earn some respect from these teams who have passion projects, who have these ideas that they haven't been able to deliver on in the past, and they're using the new vessel of Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Game Studios to facilitate those. So if you have a legacy team like Tango Gameworks that's excited about a project, lean into that. And I think if they do have something that they're excited about and passionate about making that's smaller scale, I think that's a great way to use leverage to lift that up and give those teams the opportunities to express themselves in different ways, as opposed to the formulaic, this is a AAA game, it needs to be X, Y, and Z story. Because that's just kind of the way it is with big games. That being said, that's it for this week's episode of Xbox Chaturdays and the final Xbox Chaturdays episode of 2022. One more time, I'll be cheesy. Thank you all so much for supporting the show, for hanging out, for dropping questions, for joining in live, for dropping super chat equivalents. This channel's new. It's been going a little over a month now, but to be already at 1.1 thousand subscribers in a relatively short period of time means a lot. It's cool that people care about what I'm doing, so appreciate you. If you are new, you haven't subscribed, feel free to hit that subscribe button. To the audio listeners who support the show, I appreciate you listening on your own time. And same with the video on demand folks. I understand that not everyone can be here live, but I do appreciate that the hundreds and hundreds of people who tune in after the fact and listen to the show. So thank you all so much. Appreciate you. And that is going to do it for this week's episode of Xbox Chaturdays. Have an amazing holiday break, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Take care.